Brooklyn Independent Television.
For the interview, I rehearse in my head things I might say, like how art is about finding truth and seeing things how they really are. Then I make the apartment abnormally clean, hang a few choice posters, and generally create the image by which I wish to be seen. Even this clever cartoon is part of that. I worked at this restaurant job for a while, one of many, sort of gigs that I worked in Brooklyn when I first moved here. And I was totally miserable. And, working in a restaurant kind of gets to become this thing where you're in this cycle of treading water. I wanted to kind of break from that pattern and find something slightly more constructive to do when I got off work so I could feel like I still owned a piece of the day. So I started coming home and just sort of documenting my experiences in the restaurant and things that I saw. One of the first images that kind of caught my eye was this Junior's restaurant over on Decobb. I was passing by one day and the lights were out so that it read Unrest Rant. And I thought that was interesting. Just passing it by, it was like a cold day. I was kind of tired, depressed, whatnot. And it almost seemed to kind of speak to me, this randomness. I like the idea that people have this momentary glimpse at something that they find very interesting. And then they document it. They make some notation of this interaction that would otherwise just kind of pass, like two people glancing at each other in the subway. I love comics. I grew up reading a lot of comic books with superheroes and whatnot, and eventually I got into more, independent stuff, stuff that goes away from big muscular guys who fly around and beat up bad guys. When I walk down the street, I try and be aware of what I'm seeing. I just had this very basic concept that there is some sort of conversation in the landscape. Brooklyn's interesting to me just because there's really just so much overlapping. It's hard to walk down the street and not see something strange or beautiful or interesting or funny. In the lobby at Target, I'm reminded that even our garbage gets a second chance. This is in the Target over on Atlantic, and with the way the lighting is and just the word redemption almost had this double meaning to it. They start off in one of my little notebooks where I'll scrawl out some idea that's unreadable to anybody else. I keep my camera with me all the time, and I'll take photographs as I'm walking around of stuff that looks interesting, and I might not necessarily have a concept behind it, but that I think might become useful later on. Doing something like this, you kind of end up creating silly little rules for yourself, but part of the idea that I'm trying to explore is how these actual sort of juxtapositions occur, and the meaning of these real life scenes. So it becomes important for me, I guess. Generally, I mix watercolors and acrylics. I like the softness of watercolors and the ability to kind of really establish different tones. But unfortunately, there's not really a white watercolor. So whenever I want to lighten something or just have a white color, I end up using acrylics. A lot of times it's about just sort of establishing the initial shapes and then layering things. That's one of the things that I like about painting, is that you can be as messy as you want and play around until you get something right. It's kind of like like clay or sculpture, the idea that you can keep reshaping something. I like the idea that we seek out significance, but in a specific form. And many times, maybe we fail to see what potentially could be also significant. You know, even if something seems ridiculous, a lot of times I'll try and to find that significance. Like even if in the Coke bottle there's like this, the bubbles form like the face of Mickey Mouse or something like that. You know, that maybe that does have some significance, that somehow the group consciousness of all of us working together and moving in our daily lives connect somehow, create a conversation or an echo of what we collectively know. You know, I kind of feel like you have a limited time on Earth, so you might as well, you know, spend the majority of it as close to something that you enjoy as possible.
Follow us on Twitter at BK Independent TV.